And finally, new rule, you can get creative with a novel, a TV show, or a movie, but history books, that's not supposed to be fan fiction. How we teach our kids history has become a big controversy these days, with liberals accusing conservatives of wanting to whitewash the past, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes they do. But plenty of liberals also want to abuse history to control the present. And last month, a scholar named James Sweet caught hell for calling them out for doing just that. He criticized a phenomenon known as presentism, which means judging everyone in the past by the standards of the present. It's the belief that people who lived 100 or 500 or 1,000 years ago really should have known better. Which is so stupid. It's like getting mad at yourself for not knowing what you know now when you were 10. Stupid me, spending all that time raising sea monkeys and playing with slot cards and jerking off to a Playboy in the barn. Who doesn't have moments from your past that make you cringe? Who hasn't said, I can't believe I said that? I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I did that. You ate dirt. You wanted to be a Ghostbuster. You shoplifted gum. You tried to be a white breakdancer. You wanted to marry Scott Baio. I read Ayn Rand. I smoked. I was into numerology. Yes, because we hadn't then grown into the persons we would become. And humanity writ large is just the collective version of that. Did Columbus commit atrocities? Of course. But people back then were generally atrocious. Everybody who could afford one had a slave, including people of color. The way people talk about slavery these days, you'd think it was a uniquely American thing that we invented in 1619. But slavery throughout history has been the rule, not the exception. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, Romans, the Arabs, British, the early Americans, all the way up through R. Kelly. The Holy Bible is practically an owner's manual for slaveholders. The word slave comes from Slav, because so many Slavic people were enslaved, and they're as white as the Hallmark Channel. Who do you think gathered the slaves from the interior of Africa to sell to slave traders? Africans, who also kept their own slaves. We're a species prone to making others of our species our bitch. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Humans are not good people.
Where we actually react to things on the internet, same day, same shirt, different video. And today we're returning to Bill Maher. I wasn't going to react to another Bill Maher video so quickly, but I already listened to some of this and I was like, I have to react to this. Alright, so trying to change the past to fix the present or something like that. I agree with everything he said. I've said this before, that I don't think that progressive lefts or wokes or the academics try to make slavery seem like a uniquely American thing. I think they purposely try to make it a uniquely white thing and a uniquely European thing. But it's not. And he made a good point of saying, like, yeah, Christopher Columbus conquered a country where other people already lived in, and it was devastating to those natives who already lived in that country, right? But that was the way of the world. That was the culture back then. Like he said, slavery was the rule, not the exception. It was a lot of slavery, a lot of murdering, a lot of conquering, a lot of raping, a lot of pillaging, a lot of that shit going on, a lot of human atrocities, a lot of oppression. That was just the way of the world back then. That was the acceptable form of living, right? And then you evolve and you grow and you learn and you become better people and you realize that's not something something we should be doing, even though in some countries it still exists, but the progressive left never talks about them because they're not white. Someone said something once that made completely really good sense. They said that people always say that white people sold slaves. That's not true. Not for the most part when it came to the African slave trade. Africans sold slaves. The white Europeans bought the slaves because they didn't have a strong enough immune system to go into the vast continent of Africa and gather hundreds and thousands of slaves. The Africans gathered hundreds of thousands of slaves. Some slaves they already had because they had their own slaves because of their own raping and pillaging and enslavement, and they sold them to the Europeans. Maybe further along in the African slave trade, because of medicines and antibiotics, white Europeans and settlers were able to get more into Africa, but very much in the beginning, it was Africans who sold slaves, not the Europeans. So when we talk about reparations, why aren't we knocking on the continent of Africa? But again, that can't be the narrative that the liberals and progressives rest on, because a lot of them are Marxists. And what do Marxists do? Marxists categorize people as oppressed and the oppressors. So they need the narrative to be slavery is a uniquely white person thing, and slavery was based on color, not accessibility. And if anybody is going to sit there and drag somebody for their past choices, Gen Z better buckle up, because in your 30s, we're gonna have a real good laugh looking at your TikTok scrapbooks, because I mean, cringe fest. So yes, people looking at people from hundreds and thousands of years ago when they have the lack of technology, the lack of information, the lack of education, the lack of tools that we have, and just evolving as a society, as a progressive society, trying to punish them for not being involved in hundreds of years ago where we are today. It's sort of a way of having a vanity morals or a vanity righteousness of saying, see, I'm better than those slave owners because I don't have slaves in the year 2022. Would most likely everyone who exists today would have been pro whatever was going on in society back then, because again, most of society don't speak up about anything. Most of society, most humans are more self-protective. They're not going to rock the boat, and they're not going to speak up when it needs to be spoken up. And again, slavery and those things back then was just as normal as apple pie. It was normal. It was just the way things were. As atrocious as it is, it was normal. So most people today screaming about how more virtuous and righteous they are would have been the same people owning slaves back then. Black and white, and all the other races in between. But anyway, we're gonna get right back into it. But before you do, if you like type of videos, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support this channel any further, you can donate. My PayPal link is in the description box below, and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below. And if you like, you can super thanks. Other than that, sit back, relax, and continue to enjoy the video. All right, here we go.
And the capacity for cruelty is a human thing, not a white thing. That's the truth, even though it doesn't jibe with the current narrative. But in today's world, when truth conflicts with narrative, it's the truth that has to apologize. Being woke is like a magic moral time machine where you judge everybody against what you imagine you would have done in 1066, and you always win.
I'm sorry. What he just said, amazing. When truth goes up against the narrative, the truth is what has to apologize. When you tell obese people being obese is unhealthy, who has to apologize? The person who's saying obesity is healthy, or the obesity is not healthy? If you say that biological facts matter when it comes to gender and sex, who has to apologize? The one who's speaking biological facts, or the ones who's speaking fairy tales and my feelings? It's crazy. And it's the downfall of the United States. Anyway, let's continue.
Presentism. Yeah, this professor is right. It's just a way to congratulate yourself about being better than George Washington because you have a gay friend and he didn't. But if he was alive today, he would too. And if you weren't alive, if you were alive then, you wouldn't. Portland Public Schools has a plan now to teach kids that the idea of gender being mainly binary was brought here by white colonizers. The curriculum guide says, when the United States was colonized by white settlers, their views around gender were forced upon the people already living here. Not even Star Trek would try that story.
I'm sorry. For someone who seems to be trying to abolish white supremacy, you seem to be in love with white supremacy. You believe in white superiority so much. You think white people created gender and gender roles. What the fuck? Gender and traditional gender roles have existed since man. You can go all the way back to fucking the Neanderthals and see traditional gender roles. Like, speaking as an ethnic person that knows a lot about my ethnicity and my black culture and African tribes because I grew up in a very pro-black family, you can go to ancient African civilizations and see traditional gender roles. Again, just because you can go find an obscure tribe that had a special third gender, which is usually was unique and kind of seen as a guru or some sort of spiritual guide or some sort of anomaly in that culture, does not mean that they didn't practice traditional gender roles. The Native Americans practiced traditional gender roles. Men went out and hunt and gathered while the women stayed home and cooked and took care of the babies. All over fucking America. Like literally, I've been traveling for 8-something years. I travel in mostly very ethnic countries. Right? Thailand, one of the only Southeast Asian countries that was not colonized, and they've always practiced traditional gender roles. To think white people invented it. Like, you have to be fucking kidding me. Oh my god, the idiocracy is fucking real in these people. Anyway, let's continue.
Where they discover a planet and give them separate bathrooms. It's like they finally discovered a unified theory of wokeness, incorporating all their ideas about race, gay, gender, and colonizers. Like the New World was a great big diverse dance club and the Pilgrims were the bridge and tunnel crowd who came in and ruined everything.
Yeah.
There's a play called I, Joan, currently being presented in London, written by Charlie Josephine, who identifies as non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. And it portrays Joan of Arc as, surprise, non-binary with they, them pronouns. Which, if you think about it, makes even less sense because Joan, being French, spoke a language where every noun is masculine or feminine.
It's like when they try to change like Spanish language, like Latin X was Spanish language, is very gendered, so you literally have to reconstruct the entire language. And guess who came up with that? White progressives talking about colonization. They're literally trying to colonize other people's language. Anyway, let's continue.
Joan says in the play, I'm not a girl. I don't fit that word, as if she's a character on Euphoria. Now, it's true, Joan of Arc did wear pants, but that's what the soldiers wore, and she was soldiering. But in the retelling, Joan would rather die than stop wearing men's clothing. Okay, Joan of Arc wasn't executed by the fashion police. Her trial went on for over 2 months. We have the transcript, and not once did she complain about being misgendered. She had bigger fish to fry, like herself.
You know why? You know why? Because she had actual struggling. When you have real struggle, when you have life and death struggle, the last thing you care about is your fucking pronouns. Caring this heavily about pronouns is a direct reflection on the privilege you have in the world, because that is such a first world thing. You will never see any other country talk about pronouns so passionately, literally having mental breakdowns because someone mispronounced you, literally semi-threatening people for not pronouncing you correctly. It is a direct reflection on your fucking entitlement and your fucking privilege.
How to interact with a non-binary person from 1, part 2. If you get our pronouns wrong or our name wrong, we expect you to stop the sentence, apologize, change what you said, and then continue. Don't do it any other way.
Joan of Arc doesn't care about her pronouns because first of all, she was a non-binary. Second of all, she had actual shit she had to worry about. These people are fucking bored, entitled, privileged, spoiled assholes. And they're probably all narcissists, but let's continue.
Too soon, it was 1431. Which is not to say that there isn't truth to the old rubric that history is written by the winners, and it is subjective. Napoleon said history is just a fable we all agree on. And he should know because he was a deaf woman named Diane. But it's also true that much of history is indisputably factual because we have artifacts and coins and birth records and archaeology, and somebody in Mesopotamia kept a record of how much grain they ate. It's not all up in the air to change or delete or make up based on what makes you feel better today. A couple of years ago, they made a movie called The Aeronauts about the scientists who broke the record for the highest altitude in a balloon. In fact, they were both men, but the movie made one of them a woman because, as the director explained, representation is important. So true. Women never get enough credit for the things they didn't do.
I just reacted to the Little Mermaid thing and I talked about this representation, and I have no problem with representation, but the fact that you're so fragile internally that you need the world to tell you, literally, but no. In this case, you need the world to lie to you to make you feel good about yourself. That is a bigger problem than actual representation in the media. The fact that people have to heavily rely on Hollywood, billboards, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, to tell them that they're strong instead of them knowing that internally, that is a bigger problem than representation. And I agree with them. Whoever controls the history controls power. That's why you see a lot of academia trying to rewrite history at the moment. And sometimes history is whitewashed. Like when it comes to BC, you know, the time of BC, or when they talk about Jesus or Moses, or they have these Cleopatra movies. Cleopatra was not a white, blonde, blue-haired woman, and neither was Jesus. I mean, if you just look at the history, you look at the locations, if you look at the artifacts, and all, if you just look at logic, that would be logically true. But for a long time, that's how it was depicted. So I do agree in somewhat that history can be whitewashed, and people who control history has power. Again, that's why you see the attempt of rewriting it at the moment. And I also believe that we don't know all of history yet, you know? I just reacted to a Graham Hancock where he revealed that for 50 years, archaeologists would not dig, they would not dig further than the agreed death because they figured they've already know the answer. They figured out the first human in America. They don't have to dig any further. 50 years, they literally stopped investigating. And then later on, they found out that there are human remains that goes as far as 100 and something years in America. And it is also true that some history has been lost through pillaging countries and through burning books, unfortunately. And there's language that's been lost because no one's alive to translate shit. Right? So there's a lot we don't know. But the stuff that we do know, the stuff that is facts, that we got data, we got it on, we have the best estimate or a best guesstimate than we have, then that's the history and leave it the fuck alone. Anyway, let's continue.
I think Meryl Streep should play Seabiscuit so every girl will know she too can grow up to be a racehorse.
Alright guys, that's it. One of the reasons I talked about the reason why a lot of academia is sort of trying to either rewrite history or sort of say it in a narrative to pursue an agenda, basically. I talked about when I talked about critical race theory, this neo-Marxist belief system of it is white privilege or white supremacy to teach students objectively and unbiasedly so, that you should teach whatever subject you're teaching through the lens of race. Anyway, guys, that's it. I agree with everything Teddy said. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell to get notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can donate. My PayPal me link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, and subscribe. Another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Links down below and links to all of the eternal platforms I'm on, my socials, including my Twitter. All the ways to support me, all the ways to contact me for business is always in the links down below. And if you like, you can super thanks. I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle. I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below. Also in the comment section, hit the link, go subscribe to my travel vlog channel, or follow me on my travel Instagram. My storage is usually what's most up to date. And I have all of my other YouTube channels, links down below. Go support, go subscribe, and you guys have an amazing day. Bye.